I'm going to explore health, music and tech and give you a bit of background on the journey that I've been on personally, professionally, academically, with, around this subject, and the fact that we now find ourselves in an incredibly interesting time where science and tech are absolutely, it's the marriage made in heaven, that everything is now coming together in a really fascinating way, especially with artificial intelligence and machine learning and a lot of the kind of the detailed things that can now be achieved at an affordable, it's still expensive, but it's way less expensive than it used to be, the things that we can now do. So where does music fit into that? It's interestingly, music fits right in the heart of that. And it's kind of been a circular journey, this. So I'm going to explain how I entered this field and why I'm still in it. I started off as a sport and exercise scientist. And when I first came to Folkestone, I was visiting a friend and I had coffee at the Hythe Imperial Hotel down on the seafront in Hythe and ended up being offered a job while I was there. So I didn't go back to Wales. I stayed and I managed that health club and then built a brand of that chain. And we spun it around 12 different properties around England as part of the hotel chain, which was then sold for £180 million. I did not have any shares, sadly. But the point of that little story is that there was a lot of money in diet and exercise, the diet and fitness industry. We thought that was going to produce healthy nations. And music was right at the heart of that fitness industry. Exercise to music, synchronizing music. I did a lot of research around that, published research in the Journal of Sport and Exercise Sciences. We were seeing how you could suppress feelings of pain and fatigue using music, and by synchronizing music, we were seeing how different things were happening with music. And we thought in the sport and exercise fitness sector that we were going to produce healthy nations, because we were telling everyone to join the gym, everyone to do these exercises, everyone to count their calories. And 5 decades of those massive diet and fitness trends have not produced any healthy nations at all. And so about 5 years ago, I started looking at this myself, because I was like, how can that possibly not have worked? Because we were so certain. And now we're starting to see in molecular biology and epigenetics science that genetics and epigenetics are 2 different things. And there is a lot of stuff happening at a cellular level that's now very evident, because the technology is able to look at things on an absolutely microscopic level, not just looking at things, but looking at the DNA of those things. So we can gather so much more insights than we ever could before. Genetics, your genes, you inherit them. Epigenetics, the action of really unpacking that DNA and the gene expression in all of your cells throughout your whole life. Turns out that is influenced by the things you do every day, your environment, where you are, the type of light you get, the type of temperatures, the type of sounds you hear. That is determining how your cells are activated and how those genes are expressed and those proteins are made on a daily basis throughout your life. And so there is a real shift now towards biological aging, what's going on at a cellular level, your daily habits, the things that you do, the people that you surround yourselves with. They have a significant impact on your health, because it's very likely right now that a lot of us are ill. And we do not know it, because the chronic diseases bubble along silently for years, sometimes decades, before any physical symptoms arise. And so looking at health from a cellular level is the new era that is very, very much taking over as a preventative approach, not there's a symptom, let's find some medicine, pharmaceutical drug, match it with the symptoms, blah, blah, blah. It's clear that doesn't work. That's not working. So prevention is key. And everyone in this room knows that music is a preventative tool for many different reasons. I was first shown this by the US Navy SEALs in the early 1990s. When I visited California as a sport and exercise science student. I went from the university in Cardiff, rain, to Los Angeles, sun. The students in LA got to go to Cardiff. And while I was there, I was invited to visit the US Navy SEALs base in San Diego. Amazing facilities, 50-meter outdoor pool in the sunshine on Coronado Beach in San Diego. It's amazing. But when I met the PT instructors there, they were showing me how they were using music. So this is 30 years ago. Elite military were using music to reduce anxiety in high-pressure situations, to improve sleep quality in hostile environments, to improve physical endurance, motivation, confidence, all through the power of music and singing. There's a reason that they're doing that. It's not an entertainment. I was a musician and a DJ at the time, and this just astounded me because I'd only ever thought of music as entertainment. And of course it's not. The ears lead to the brain. Sound is vibration. We receive vibrations in many different ways. So what fascinates me right now is that 30 years ago, so ever since then, I then studied in psychology, moved into neuroscience, now moving through nutrition science into epigenetic science, looking at music in all these different ways. And I'm thinking, why on earth in 30 years are we still having to sit here talking about the power of music when the elite military and elite sport, I was using these techniques with British Olympic squads in the 1990s, and yet we're still having to have this conversation trying to justify music. Music is a biohack, which is the new trendy term for anything that hacks into your underlying ancient biological circuits. Every sound you hear, just like every molecule you put in your mouth, is having an electrochemical impact in the brain and the body. And so it's a really powerful tool, as well as being amazing fun and things that we are designed to enjoy these experiences together, not just alone. They have multiple impacts. So I've been, over the last kind of 5 years, my PhD looked at the lifelong effect of music memories, of music from youth, on the lifelong effect of those memories, which led me to work with dementia projects with the NHS. So Harmonia, Nina at the back there, also worked with me on this project, trying to figure out how we could put music in that environment, to try and use music to increase quality of care and everything else. I carried on talking with various NHS groups and committees and things like that, because what I was really interested in is how do we stop people ever having to move into Harmonia? How do we stop people ever developing all kinds of different diseases that we know are preventable, and music can play a part in that? So I started looking at all the different biohacks, and my particular interest in it was how can music impact this aspect of health? How can music impact that aspect of health? Because it is extremely versatile as a tool. And what has happened with technology during that time is that tech has rapidly accelerated, like beyond recognition. What is possible now is incredible. I can do a whole DJ gig using my phone, whereas before I used to have to cart the Technics 1210s turntables and the massive rig with the speakers and and then all the vinyl and everything. It was a mission. I can now do that just with my phone and maybe a little Bluetooth DJ controller that connects to my phone, and then Bluetooth connects to speakers. The way that you can now access music, play music, engage with music has really dramatically changed, as has the technology around health. So I know one of the ways that music has a very, very powerful impact, and which is why the US Navy SEALs are using it, is that when you sing, you extend your exhales. Because you breathe in, and then you sing until you get to the end of the line and you're still exhaling. Then you breathe in, and then you're exhaling again until you get to the end of the line. Yeah! It's a natural extended exhale exercise. And what we know is that when we breathe out, our parasympathetic nervous system is activated, our heart rate variability increases, our resting heart rate decreases, and so you're training the autonomic nervous system to switch off fight or flight mode, and the chemicals, the stress chemicals and cortisol and the constant chronic drip of those chemicals that are associated with the fight or flight part of the autonomic nervous system, and you're training that system to be parasympathetic nervous system dominant. It's a calming effect. The vagus nerve innervates the heart-lungs area, that whole breath work. So it's really calm. And with technology, when I'm doing those practices of either using music or singing or synchronizing breath with different types of music, when I do that with this ring, I can see exactly what's happening with my nervous system, because it is measuring in real time my heart rate variability, which signifies whether that parasympathetic effect is being successfully activated throughout that session, which helps me think about the playlists that I'm now using for that and the types of music that I'm using pre-sleep, the types of playlists that I'm using when I'm in a busy commuting session, or if I'm on a train, or different environments, using different types of sound. Same with, wait for it. And here's one I prepared earlier. So there's some fascinating work going on now around vagus innervation around the ear. So how to activate that through bone conduction and through earphones and headphones that actually activate through vibration those types of effects. The same with, I have a watch but I don't have it with me, called Buzz, and the watch listens to sound, and music is really good with this particular device. It converts that sound into vibration, and then it feeds the vibration through your wrist. And it's being used a lot in people who are losing their hearing, which has a big impact in later life on progression to dementia and loneliness and social withdrawal and everything like that. These cues, using sound and using music, where people can actually still engage in social activities like that and music activities, they're absolutely pouring out of Stanford neuroscience labs, Harvard, Cambridge, maybe Derby, I don't know what's going on there, but all over the place now. This kind of technology is becoming more and more affordable and more accessible. So across these different pillars, we know music can play a huge part in breath work, which is essential for lots of different parts of wellness, especially anxiety. Mindset, again, synchronizing brain waves, using music, So our brains, there is an entrainment effect when we're fed with music. So if you're trying to calm someone, or if you're trying to, when I'm working with elite performers, it's the opposite. You're trying to calm them to a certain point, but then you have to psych them up at the right time. Music's perfect for that. Mindset activation, using sound and using music, singing, same through movement as well, and endurance. Those Navy SEALs can go much further, much faster, with much less pain and discomfort if they're doing da-na-na-na-na-na-na. They're synchronized. The studies that I did in the 90s, we selected music, and then we got people cycling to that music, cycling without music, cycling 65 RPM with 130 beats per minute track, so that they are synchronized exactly with the beats of the minutes. And every single time, music helps promote that kind of reduction of fatigue, pain, discomfort. You can keep going for longer. Sleep, same. We know that music can modulate brain waves, and we know that brain waves need to go in a certain direction down into delta wave level for high quality sleep. And so using music in the evening to try and improve your sleep quality is a really easy hack. It's really simple to get, pick a soundtrack, pick music that you like listening to, and then make that a part of your routine, your sleep runway, it's called now, of the things that you do before bed to try and get you into that right state so that you get really high quality sleep, which is an exceptional pillar of wellness. We underestimate the value of sleep. And then finally on my wheel, maintaining brain cells and maintaining neuroplasticity. We know that learning musical instruments is a significant brain exercise, shown to be an excellent, highly efficient way of building new brain connections throughout life, whatever age you are. And the brain doesn't care if you're good or bad, because that's just something ridiculous that we've invented. It's the act of doing it, and it's the act of learning a really complex, novel skill, which anyone who's tried to learn an instrument will know it's a really complex, novel skill that leads to immense amounts of frustration, at which point lots of people give up. But it's that frustration bit that is the bit where you're building new brain connections. You're connecting neurons. That's what you're doing, is building that cognitive reserve. Once you're no longer frustrated, you need to pick a new instrument because you've mastered it and your brain has sorted it. It's like, right, we've built those connections. It's now an automated habit. And then outside of all of that is the human bit, because a lot of these activities also, when you're using music, can bring people together into a room. And in the news today, if you've heard it, the US have declared that the new pandemic is not a new strain of COVID, it's loneliness. And it's more damaging to health than pretty much anything else, equivalent of smoking, obesity. And again, we know music is a social glue. We've been using music in this way for tens of thousands of years that we know about, and probably way longer than that. So it's such an incredible, magical thing. And it fascinates me because I came out of a 1970s upbringing in Wales, where we were just singing all the time, that's all we did was sing all day long. I used to have a sore throat by the end of the night. Singing in school, in the rugby club, in the park. Then we'd all go to the local care homes and we'd all go and sing there. And then the care home staff would come to the schools and we'd all sing there. That was like a natural thing that just happened all the time. Not just because we're Welsh, but we do like singing a lot in Wales, almost as much as rugby. We like that as well. The dream is when the singing and the rugby happen at the same time. That's like utopia. But, you know, we somehow got lost along this journey of then having to justify music, which means you've then got to measure it, you've then got to observe it, you've then got to do statistics about it, you've got to build evidence about it, and you've got to do proof about it. And in my mind, the further you go down that path, the more difficult it then becomes to justify what we already instinctively know, which is music is in our human DNA. We are musical. We vibrate. All our organs vibrate. We see this now. I'm doing some research at the moment with a university and their healthcare technology department. And we see the effect of cells that are exposed to music. So increases in red blood cell count when they're exposed to Justin Timberland or Timberlake. He won't watch this, so don't worry. Unless it goes viral. But different types of sound have different effects on cells. Studies have shown cells that are exposed to music have down-regulated, in cancer patients, down-regulation of it. And so we now know that through the biotechnology of being able to actually use, so you have the hardware, which is things like this, and the rings, the software, which are the artificial intelligence generators that can now create music at a press of a button. So what type of music do you want? Click. There are AI generators, just like GPT, right now, that will be able to create audio. They're already mirroring voices, so there is a scam going around at the moment where someone could phone my mum using my voice and say, oh, I've lost all my money, I've lost my bank cards, can you send me however many? And she would not be able to know that was not me saying that because of the audio fingerprint now. We know that Abbey Road Studios have got Abbey Road Red. Their Abbey Red program is artificial intelligence, music, a lot of music projects and incubator startups there that are using music and technology to deliver health benefits. So curation tools, so we're using one startup in Australia called Vera down at Harmonia, which is going to link with the MeCare system, which is measuring the footsteps and the heart rate and everything, all the movement of the people who are living with dementia there in that dementia village, matching it with music. So when they listen to certain types of music, that technology will be able to see what impact that music has had on their sleep quality. So we're really getting into an exciting era where there is going to be a lot more data available showing the exact effects from a neurological perspective, a cellular perspective of that music on that cell, on that autonomic nervous system, on that. There's going to be a lot of physiological data that's going to be more readily available, as well as us being able to use technology to actually learn instruments, play music, get together more often. So I think that we are on the cusp, and COVID really did accelerate all of this in a fascinating way. Some people really enjoyed COVID. I really enjoyed COVID. Not getting it, but the lockdown part of it. I actually enjoyed that part because life was way too busy. And so being able to stop for a bit and just have that break was interesting, but it's also enabled lots of companies to experiment with lots of different things. And there has been a vast acceleration since COVID across the technology platform, especially in music-related tech. So there you go. I probably haven't been as short as I... Yes, I have. I'm even below it. Below it. Are there any questions? Well, obviously that's their business model. But some of the meetings that I'm having at the moment around drug efficacy and the use of music in improving the outcomes of drug, pharmaceutical drugs, where you can show that if someone can improve their wellness parameters, then this drug is far more likely to be effective or with less side effects. And music is something that we're talking about in that regard, because we already know that it is reducing. There's a lot of studies that have shown how, some of them were mentioned earlier around pain, but just general side effects. So, it's interesting because they're not going to fund solutions that then require, but it's the same with I went to a breakfast briefing at the House of Commons last month. There's invited this round table, 25 of us, to talk about nutrition and the health of the nation. And I got there and was handed a bag as I went in. It was a breakfast meeting, which was interesting because I was like, I think we should be promoting intermittent fasting, not doing a breakfast meeting and eating cereal at 8 o'clock in the morning. This is kind of like opposite to what we should be doing. But I'm here, given this bag, Kellogg's. So that breakfast meeting at the House of Commons was sponsored by Kellogg's, which the company that sells all the sugary foods to all the children who then start life on a not great microbiome footing. So there is I'm not into conspiracy theories and all of that, but we have to acknowledge that pharma has a lot of money and a lot of influence, and the manufacturers, food and beverage manufacturers, have a lot of money and a lot of influence. But humans have common sense. And so when you start giving the right information directly to people, then they do start to question and start to look at their own, what they're doing. And people are really, and again, after COVID, people are really, really, really looking for alternative preventative methods, because we know we don't have a healthcare problem, we have a self-care problem. People are not looking after themselves, firstly because we've got a low level of understanding of how the body works. Most people know more about how their phone works than their body. But also, we've been fed the wrong information for a long time. We're still telling people to go and do these things in the gym and count calories when we know that that's not a route to wellness. Fitness and wellness are a different thing. So technology has been driving a ton of social interactions over the last few years because people have moved on to the dreaded thing that is social media, which I detest. But that's how I find out about gigs that are happening. That's how I find out about events that I want to go to. All the music things that are happening, that's how I find out about them. That's how I connect with people that are in that social event. And so the technology that we're talking about of, yes, you know, a lot of my corporate clients, this is a big problem, that their people arrive at their computer screens, put their headphones on, and they all sit in silence, just going all day long with their headphones on. And then they go home and probably do the same at home. But so certain aspects of technology negatively impact those issues, but other parts of technology are really benefiting them. Look at the choirs that could continue online throughout COVID, you know, getting together, singing through a computer screen. I mean, who would have thought that was ever going to happen? And it was obviously not as good as the same thing in person, but it still is a level of connection through that, because you feel as if you belong to something. So technology, it's always been like this, isn't it? There are good parts of it and there are bad parts of it. It depends how you use it.
It's going back to self-care, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a choice, isn't it?
What about with older people that really struggle with technology? Because sometimes it can be just so complicated trying to, you know, like I think with my mum, how they learn and adapt to those things that can help them. Are there apps and things that are more accessible, so some of those benefits can be accessed to those, you know, that are not so familiar with technology?
I mean, even I can't figure out half the things that are possible in a lot of the tech, but some of the newer apps that are designed for that target audience are very much, the user experience that is being designed is simple, clear, certain colours, you know, or the ability to be able to change size so that you can see it, easy to press. Like the Vera app, that also has got a very simplistic curation profile. So you put in your date of birth, basically, and where you grew up. And then there's a very simplistic bank of songs to choose from at that point, and the AI kind of takes over, and you don't really have to interact with it very much unless you want to like something or reject something. So less is more, you know. Often I have a lot of meeting with app developers now, and we could put this in it, and we could put this feature in it, and then we could put this feature in it, and that feature in it. It's like, God, why, you know, just make it one screen and make it really easy. Because engagement on apps, most apps, I'm sure you all do this if you use smartphones, you download an app and you start using it for a bit, and then it just, you know, it goes into the million pages of millions of apps that you've downloaded. There isn't that longevity with a lot of things, but when it's something that's being used, especially in a care setting, that is then being used by the whole family, then it does become a central point, you know. They are useful tools.